Welcome to Winning with Grace today. Today we have Corinne Florence, one of my dearest friends who's been in the crypto space for, what is it, like 7 or 8 years at this point?
First trial was 2017.
So it's been a minute, almost a decade. But she currently is out in Florida. She's originally from Australia, born and raised in Australia, lived in Italy, and now is in Florida. She's been able to educate and empower women, specifically in the crypto space, for many, many years, but been able to educate over hundreds of thousands of people all through online education. I've been a student of yours for 3 or 4 years now at this point. And so we've been able to travel the world, see some really cool things, and get to experience some crazy high highs in crypto and some low lows in crypto like we did last week. And so being able to do this with individuals like yourself, somebody who's of faith, somebody who's been in the space, somebody who came from corporate or came from a completely different industry and decided to just jump full stream into crypto, had a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth, and then came back to it. Tell us a little bit about your journey from exiting the medical world into crypto, and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. This is always so fun to catch up with you. Yeah, I mean, like you just said, I'm just your regular girl. Like I was raised with like go to school, get a job, like go to university for us, like be the first person in the family to come out with like the university degree. And but one thing I will say I was always really grateful for is my parents as immigrants, because we immigrated from Italy to Australia. They were very much like, don't rely on anybody for your income. Work to create something for yourself. And even seeing like my dad and like his business ventures and things like that, it was always like, make sure that you don't rely on anything or anybody else. And so I am very grateful for that. And I did still go through university, came out of that as a hematologist and biochemist. Like, what? And now I do crypto. It's so random. But I've always been a very like curious person. Like I want to understand the ins and outs of things. Like I was that little girl that would ask like a million questions to mom and dad, to the point that they would be like, we don't know, like stop. So like if you've ever been that little girl or little boy, then that's amazing. Like, embrace that. And yeah, so I went out into the corporate world. I was so blessed that, by 21, I had the dream job. Like I had the six-figure income corporate job, and like the actually was paid to go to Italy to work from Australia. I had my house paid for, my car paid for, my bills paid for, everything by my work. And on top of that, my salary. And so everybody was like, wow, you did it. And I was like, is this it? Like, is this what the, like, dream is meant to be? And so, I got to this point in my 20s where I was like, if this is what the dream is meant to be, then maybe, like, I don't want the dream. Like, I don't want the dream that everybody else says, at least in our Western societies, that this is what you're working towards. And I personally just started looking for something that would, like, fulfill me, that would make me, like, happy, make me feel like I had a purpose, because unfortunately, what I had seen from being in the medical space was that I really got into the medical space to help people and to love on people and to care for people. And I felt like I could see the system very clearly and very quickly, where it was like, hold on, if I continue down this path, I am going to need to start treating people as a number more so than actually people for what they are. Now that I'm a lot older and I zoom out, I'm like, oh, like there is different ways of doing that, of course, within the medical system. Absolutely. But Corinne back then just didn't know. And I surrendered. I was just like, I don't know, this is not right for me. So I was like, God, tell me, like, there's got to be more. And that's why he brought in Bitcoin into my
Yeah.
life. I saw Bitcoin on a Facebook post where somebody really big that I followed in the entrepreneurial space, I had watched him speak like 20 minutes on stage one time, and I would just adored what he spoke about and his mindset. He was like, Bitcoin just hit $3,000. And I was like, wow, what's Bitcoin? Like if this person's
$3,000.
talking about it, then I want to know what he's talking about. And yeah, so that's where my journey started, just by seeing this Facebook post from somebody that I knew was a lot more successful than me, and that had the lifestyle that I wanted to have, because not only did he have businesses, but he was Italian with headquarters in Miami. He was traveling around the world. He was always talking about helping people and empowering them and helping even like vulnerable people and things like that. So those just mixed together was what led me to it. And then, it was just a snowball effect from there, where I had a click moment where I understood cycles in history. I mean, I understand them a lot more now than I did back then, but I understood there's always cycles that repeat themselves in history. And we were starting to approach a really key one where our US dollar, our fiat currencies, and it doesn't matter where you live in the world, because every single other currency as of October 2025, while we're recording this, is still pretty much backed by the US dollar. So whatever happens to the US dollar affects everything else. The US dollar is dying. It is created this way. It is not backed by anything anymore, but just a private group of people that have chosen that that's what they're going to do. And so US dollar is just declining. Life is feeling like it's getting more expensive for people because we have a not so beautiful thing called inflation, and we need a new solution. Like, we need something new to help people get out of the suffering that so many people are going through today. And Bitcoin is the opposite. Bitcoin literally is a deflationary asset where it continues to grow, it continues to expand. It's more adaptable to the technological world. And I call it, the intelligence era that we are going through now. Digital era is done. Internet's here, y'all. Like, we're all used to it. We all have smartphones. We all have laptops, computers. We all use the internet. But now we're going into the intelligence era, which is artificial intelligence, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain. So seeing that just really brought for me, and obviously I repeat, the way I'm talking about it now, back then I just had a click of like, oh my gosh, like,
You
I know
saw it.
this is what I'm meant to do. I don't fully get it yet, but I know that this is like big. So I completely left corporate. I just went all in. I was like, if you don't do it in your 20s, when are you going to do it? Like, worst case scenario, I just go back to a corporate job. Like, whatever. And so I went all in, and I was like, this is my thing.
Mhm.
And, fast forward now, however many years later, this is literally my purpose and driving force. And I receive confirmations from God almost every day that, like, this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I'm like meant to be helping people get out of the rat race by shifting to the new world.
That is so cool, and I love hearing it, and for anybody listening, it's a journey, like, to be able to understand this whole process, and like you said, it was just like you understood one concept, and you're like, "Oh, I see it. I
Yes.
get it." And now I think it probably was, like, 3 years into my journey of crypto where I was like, "Oh, there's patterns." Like, I could not see the patterns until I had been in the space for long enough to feel some of the repeatable things, and then being able to now paint the picture for the newest person, like, how they would even get started is to, like, even onboarding into crypto or where they even start when it comes to, like, education. Because I know that
Wow.
there's so much stuff out in the world, but there's also so much noise, and how do we kind of filter through what it is, that we need to filter through in order to get to the meat and potatoes of the real stuff?
I love that. I think for the newest person, and even if I look back on like my journey, and what I wish I had started with is, number 1, like, focus on understanding what Bitcoin is. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Like, I know I'm here wearing a crypto hat, and we always talk about crypto, and you hear crypto and crypto influences. But Bitcoin really is an asset class, a technology, a revolution of its own. We cannot compare Bitcoin to the rest of the cryptocurrency space. So, The way that I think about it is like literally start with just, and you can buy a course, you can do this, you can do that, you can come learn from me. I don't care who you learn from. I love you one way or another. Like, I love you so much that I'm like, just go learn about this from someone who is reputable. But like, even if you just go to YouTube and you're like, what is Bitcoin? Like Bitcoin 101. And I just want you to start literally opening to your mind to what is Bitcoin, I think is the very, very first step. And already there, what I would say to avoid, because like you just said, there is so much noise. There's so much noise, is don't look for or try and avoid without the try. Avoid get rich quicks. And that can even be with, and I'm saying this as a leverage trader, try and avoid personally starting straight away from leverage. Like, first, actually understand what Bitcoin is, why we need it, and then start looking for, okay, how do I now like get into it? Because one of the best quotes that I've ever heard is from Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time. Love him or hate him. And, he says, you must know the asset that you invest in. The reason why majority of people lose on their investments is because they don't know what they're getting themselves into. They don't understand the asset. It's better that you understand something and you go all in on it than you trying to just follow somebody else. And I know I'm probably saying things that is very like contrary to a lot of what you hear online. Like there is a lot of influencers that are like, yep, come trade with me. Like you're going to learn to like make this much money this quickly. I like the zoom out and look at what's happening on the long term, and starting to just learn and understand what Bitcoin is the first one. So that's where I would start. Is there anything else that you feel like even from your journey or that you
Think
reflect on?
I think one of the most interesting dichotomies that I've had is, like, I've had years where I've had more money in crypto than I've had in USD, and I'm just like, "Okay," but that's just, like, long-term stuff, so I'm like, I really don't value USD currency because I understand crypto more than I understand USD, even though I've been around longer and I've had dollars in my wallet, in my pocket for my entire life, but then I'm like, I learned about crypto and I was like, "Okay, there are 2 completely different energies surrounding these 2 types of money," and I was like, it does break the paradigm of, investing. Like, when people used to tell me to, like, invest, I was that kid that was like, "How? Show me how." Like, I wanna
I love
learn
it.
this when I was, like, 12, and I was talking about, like, Roth IRAs when I was, like, 10. I'm like, "What is this, mom?" She couldn't tell me.
So cool.
But, like, nobody could help me figure out how it was, so I was just the kid that was just like, "What is this? How do I learn this?" Because I understood compound interest,
So
but
cool.
I couldn't figure out how to do it until somebody taught me crypto, and I was just like, "Okay." So from the perspective of the individual who's maybe been in the investing world from fiat and stocks and stuff, can you explain a little bit about, like, the transition from, like, the potential growth that they have in that market compared to the potential growth that they have in the crypto market? Because 'Cause they're 2 very different.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think it always comes back to, even just now when I've been reading crazy statistics, like looking at things like gold right now or the S&P 500, like they're up. They're up. We've had gold reach all-time highs. It's gone above $4,000. S&P, NASDAQ, all these things are at the highest prices that we've ever seen them. That's amazing. That's fun. When you invest in Wall Street, we're talking about an 8% return per year is a good return. But then we start to shift over to, once again, understanding Bitcoin. And when we start to shift over to Bitcoin, we start to understand that once again, we have what's called a deflationary asset. Two things. Number one, Wall Street's giving you 8% per year. Coin historically, if we look at it averaged over a 4-year cycle, it's giving you 50% returns per year.
Per year.
Bitcoin is the new hurdle rate, in my opinion. in simple words, meaning if something can't outperform Bitcoin, why would I invest in it? If
Interesting.
something can't outperform Bitcoin, like, respectfully, gold is amazing. It has a lot of things. You can use it for diversification, but it's done 800% returns in I don't know how many decades in comparison to Bitcoin's done 50 something thousand% return in the same amount of time. Like, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. Please go fact check it, but I know that the numbers are crazy, right? And so that's one aspect of it all. And then the other thing that I go and look at and that I was kind of starting to bring together is okay, so gold, S&P, everything is up. But go and compare it to whether it's up in comparison to Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Because the beautiful thing that and I guess it's like a mindset shift because like I said, like we're literally going into a whole new era, a whole new way of living, a whole new way of our financial system being in this intelligence era where it's like let's mindset shift from stopping to compare everything to the US dollar.
Mm,
Start comparing everything's value in comparison to Bitcoin. And then tell me whether your things are going up, whether your assets and your investments are going up. I know. So even somebody that has like invested in real estate, like I look back, bought my first property in 2016 and, you know, after thank God I bought it before 2020, price like went up post 2020, we all know it. But did price actually go up? And how much did it actually go up? Or is it that the US dollar started getting fiat system started really losing a lot of purchasing power?
interesting.
And inflation, when I go and actually then look at like how much I would have made investing the same in Bitcoin or how much that asset made in terms of ROI in comparison to Bitcoin instead of US dollar as an initial investment, Bitcoin kind of looks better, you know?
Like, it still looks better.
Is Bitcoin still looks better. And so it really does come always back to like, if it's not outpacing Bitcoin, then is that really a worthy investment? I mean, based on goals that I'm after, obviously I do believe in diversification. It's biblical. It literally says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Totally 100%. But that's just like a little mindset shift that I've definitely had over these years of learning this and with practical experience to be like, let me start comparing price increases or just values of things in Bitcoin instead of in US dollars because my groceries are getting cheaper when I look at it in comparison to Bitcoin. My rent's getting cheaper, mortgages are getting cheaper, insurance when you compare it to Bitcoin, you compare it to US dollar and things are getting more expensive. So I'm sorry, I'm going like on a long-winded, but when we like look at then stocks and, a traditional, let's call it, it's TradFi, traditional finance, what we're used to, it looks like it's up, but I question like what is actually up and what actually is just a reflection of our fiat system dying.
That's a super interesting perspective to take on it. Because now, I mean, it does make sense if you're going to be in a decentralized space to start comparing it to Bitcoin instead of the US dollar, which I'm definitely gonna do that from now on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what? I'm going to give you a little gift. There is a free extension. I literally just bought a brand new computer. I only just set it up this morning, so I don't even have everything on here. It's a browser extension. Just Google it. It's called Opportunity Cost, and it's an extension that you can put on your computer. And when you're browsing the internet, any like number figures that come up, it will tell you the amount in Satoshis or in Bitcoin. For those that don't know, Satoshis are the fractions of Bitcoin because one Bitcoin actually then is divided up by 100 million parts. And one of those parts is called a Satoshi. So, even there, not everybody can afford to buy a Bitcoin that's worth currently $109,000 US. But instead of doing that, you can buy fractions of it and it's a Satoshi. So this extension browser allows you to, you're shopping on Amazon. I see your face. She's done it,
I was
guys.
like
you're shopping on Amazon, and now you're looking, "Oh, I'm not buying this for $100. I'm buying this for X amount of Satoshis." And now you start thinking about, like, hold on though. If I know after my studies of Bitcoin that we're looking at a Bitcoin that eventually is going to be worth $1 million, $10 million is my conservative price point. One Bitcoin will be worth 10 million US dollars. I then start thinking about, like, do I really need another one of those? Do I really need another outfit? Do I really need new shoes? Or how about I invest in things long term for like generational wealth?
That is so cool. Because when I was in college, I had the same kinda time or plug-in on my thing for USD, and because I was like, anything it would convert to US dollars, but it would also convert your time. So you could put whatever dollar you were making
Cool.
your time, and it would tell you, "This costs 8 hours of your time." And so
Wow.
and so it would, like, stop you from buying stupid stuff, and so I'm like, "This would stop you from buying stupid stuff with your Satoshi."
Seriously, exactly. But that's why I say the starting point is just really learning it and understanding Bitcoin because that's what makes a really big difference, you know?
That is really cool. In the simplest terms, what is Bitcoin?
So, in the simplest terms, I like to say like it's like digital gold. So, that's probably the simplest way of doing it, of saying it in like literally a few words. But I want you to start thinking about like Bitcoin is internet money
Mhm.
where we can't go and physically withdraw it and physically like hold it or anything, but it is online. It's actually in a cloud. It's called the blockchain. Do we need to understand all the ins and outs of that? No, we don't. Just like you know how to use your smartphone and call people on it and text and use social media, you don't know how that phone's actually working. Same thing with the blockchain. But we have this internet money currency that you have access to online, or you can choose to be a part of the ecosystem. Now, the thing is that with Bitcoin, there's only ever going to be 21 million of them. There's never gonna be more. They can't create more. I'm sorry, there's so many things, like, going through my head because I wanna say so much, and I'm like, "Wait, like, let's keep this really, really simple." So there's only ever gonna be 21 million of them. That's part of what makes it deflationary because with
There
the US
is a
dollar, they
fixed
just
supply.
there is a fixed supply. They're not just gonna go and print out brand new ones of them. The blockchain itself, like I said, this magical cloud where Bitcoin is like working on, right, is the system that goes to make sure that nobody can go and just create themselves a brand new Bitcoin out of thin air. So that's really important for all of us to understand as well. But that's just the way that I look at it. It's really simple. It's just we have this currency online in the cloud that is super secure, that can't be duplicated. We can't just go and print more out of it. And so it's scarce. It's scarce, just like they say gold is. Even though, one day China just wakes up and is like, we magically found $12 trillion worth of gold. And you're like, oh, okay. So I guess there's more supply than we thought. Whereas Bitcoin is limited. And a really cool example that I loved when we think about like Bitcoin, this is from Michael Saylor, one of the biggest, people in Bitcoin, the CEO founder of MicroStrategy, or now known as Strategy B. He talks about Bitcoin being like digital real estate, and how, think about like, if you had the chance to go back to Manhattan when it was first, like when it was just land, and you have the opportunity to buy it, like Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like, if you could go and buy a piece of land in Manhattan, however many years ago, before they started building, that's what Bitcoin is like. It's scarce, it's limited, it's highly in demand, and people have no idea how much highly in demand it's going to continue to be.
I see that with, like, the amount of countries adopting it and presidents buying it for their own portfolios, but also for the government's portfolios, and can you explain a little bit about, like, what the strategic Bitcoin reserve is?
Yeah. So in simple terms, even there, a lot of countries are starting to understand that we need to make a change to our financial system. Fiat currencies are dying, and fiat currencies, I don't know if I'm getting too complicated here, and it's not even really clear in my head just yet, but essentially, there's government bonds, and the bonds are technically now what even our fiat can even sit on or is can be backed by. Um, and a lot of the world is starting to dump that, and so we need something else that is going to hold value, that our whole lending system can work against. That's kind of like my understanding of it. And so there's a lot of like countries that are starting to realize we need a new currency, and that they're choosing Bitcoin. They're starting to choose Bitcoin to say, "Hey, we need like our financial system to be built on something more solid." And so they're choosing to just buy up Bitcoin and to own more Bitcoin. Now they were doing that also with gold, and a lot of countries have started buying gold again, and they're kind of going back to what go back to what you know in moments of crises. Like China is one of those countries that is buying up crazy amounts of gold. But, I don't know if you know about Fort Knox. So Fort Knox is, where apparently we have our gold reserves, but it hasn't been audited in, I
Knows.
don't know. I don't know. So like how much gold is actually there, whereas Bitcoin in every single transaction it's audited. In the time we've been talking, I don't know how many times Bitcoin has already been audited. So that's why they're starting to think like, okay, so if we can actually go and have something more solid where we can rebuild our financial system around that, well, Bitcoin is the option for that. So does that make sense? Is that a simple way of explaining it?
Yeah, I think that's pretty.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the government keeps buying for the Bitcoin reserve, but then it's like, do you think at some point they're just gonna like do you think at some point the banks are just gonna be like, "Okay, you guys can buy crypto from us?" Or, like, how do you think this is gonna evolve, from, like, we can get into crypto and as a user, you can get into crypto very simply, but for the average individual that has no idea, that is, like, they're not an innovator, they're just waiting for their bank to be like, "Alright, you can buy crypto." How do you think that system's gonna play out?
Yeah, I definitely see that that's inevitable, and it's already slowly starting to happen. What's crazy is that for those that don't know, Bitcoin was created in 2008, launched in 2009, and up until officially like different countries have different dates, but US is really the big one until 2024, January of 2024. Large banks and institutions legally weren't technically able to get into Bitcoin. But as of January 2024, we had the approval of the Bitcoin ETF, which just opened up the floodgates for all of them to come in and buy it. So, what's crazy is that, you know, up until then, all these large banks and institutions were like, Bitcoin's a scam, crypto's a scam, don't buy it, it's going to zero, it's a waste, blah, 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 blah. Here we are, fast forward 2024, 2025. They're like, this is the thing, we're buying it. And already a lot of these financial institutions, you can now go and buy Bitcoin through them, through an ETF. So you're indirectly investing in Bitcoin. And we see more and more banks now starting to buy Bitcoin. I think that in terms of crypto as an overall, I think about, and this is a shocker, but I believe that about 95% of crypto are going to fail.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's why
almost
we
like
need to be really selective. Go ahead.
it's almost like 95% of companies that launch are going to fail. That's how I view it as.
Exactly. Exactly. And this was the big boom, the big era of everybody wants to come in and create their own cryptocurrency because everybody could. Like, and thank God, how beautiful is that everybody has an opportunity to go and create something. But what's actually going to work, what's actually going to last? I think that
Mhm.
majority of them are going to disappear, and that's why again, we need to be so careful like which cryptos we're getting into. But yeah, I don't know how many cryptos the banks are going to offer people. I think Bitcoin is without a doubt one that is already happening, will continue to happen. I think more so, and I don't know if this is like one of your other questions or if we already want to start like going down that. I think more so the big question is around the stable coins.
Mhm.
So, like, we kind of touched on, the Bitcoin reserve, but I think the really big thing that even I'm fully trying to understand what this is going to look like, and I have my theories, is that as of this year in 2025, President Trump signed and approved the Genius Act. So the Genius Act was a genius act
It was.
because it was a genius move, in other words, right? Because essentially what they did is they secured the US dollar and its longevity, but through stable coins.
Right.
So stablecoins, for those that don't know, are a type of cryptocurrency, but that their purpose and goal is to stay pegged to the US dollar. So now with the Genius Act and them going to actually regulate and make sure that they're auditing all of the stable coins that there are, all the US stable coins, that's where I feel like they will continue to use the US dollar, but that's their bridge to bridge everybody into the cryptocurrency space. Now, that's where we then recreate this whole shift and recreate our financial system of majority of people that don't study, that don't understand. They're not even going to notice that all of this has happened.
Wow.
And they're just going to be like, okay, I mean, I'm already using, my Zelle, my Cash App, like I'm used to using electronic money. I'm just continuing to do the same now with USD, like stable coins, without me even realizing that I'm using cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
But what they don't know is that all of that is now backed by what? Well, bonds. And this was their way to save US government bonds. Genius. No matter which country, they're like, "Oh, you want us to buy back, like, the bonds? No worries. Like, that's totally fine because it's just gonna make the US dollar stronger, essentially." But then buy things like Bitcoin, because what happens is that the more of the money starts to flow into the crypto ecosystem, then the more money starts to flow into Bitcoin. And so people like you and I that are investors, that we understand this stuff, we get to get in early, but we also get to say, hey, like, I want to put my money to work for me. So I'm going to invest in things like Bitcoin, maybe like Ethereum, um, instead of just staying in this stable coin
The stable
US
coin.
dollar era, Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's starting to make more
Yeah.
sense. I've been curious about the stablecoin world because I'm like, all I see all these stable coins popping up, and I'm like, stablecoin for PayPal and stablecoin for this and stablecoin for that. But I'm like, they've they've basically since 2020 created uh, basically, I mean, there's places now where you can't even accept cash, and it drives me nuts. I'm like, this is legal tender. Like this is US dollar. Like you
Easy.
technically should have to take my money, but
Yep.
you don't even have the right technology, AKA a button on your thing to open a cash register, but you do have a QR code. And so it's like they've been training people to think that just a QR code is like super simple, speedy, but it's like that's also the process for getting into crypto. That's the process for transferring your Bitcoin to the next person to be able to buy anything. And so I'm like, are they slow? Like, to me, it seems like they're slowly teaching and training people without even telling them what they're training them for.
This is what they've done forever. Like,
Yeah.
this is why I've become such a history nerd, because when you study history, you're like, this is what they've always done. This is
Yeah.
literally what they've always done. And, I think also a really big training opportunity, shift opportunity that they got for that was the pandemic. All of a sudden, like, I don't know about in the US, but, even when I was in Australia during the pandemic, they were like, no cash because germs. And so slowly, like, everything became cashless. And I think actually Australia is one of the fastest moving countries to turn into a completely cashless society. Then that opens up a whole can of worms where don't know if we have time, but central bank digital currencies.
If you touch touch on the difference because there's such a big difference and there's such a big stigma around both of those.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, central bank digital currencies, aka CBDCs, are a currency that is sure on the blockchain. So it's like a created as a cryptocurrency, but it is owned by the central banks. Nothing changes. It's still fiat currency being shifted into this new technology. But now start to think about that it's traceable, programmable, meaning you can go and spend, you're on your bank apps, you're tap, tap, tapping everywhere. And all of a sudden they say, hey, you know what? We've decided that our CBDC is has an expiry date. So you get paid from your job, and within 30 days, you've got to use it up. Otherwise, your cash is expired.
Here.
Wait, you know what we've decided now is that from your salary, from your job, your income, what you get, 50% of that can only be spent on housing and food. 20% of that can only be spent on clothing. And, you know, the other 30% is all you get for other things. And so they can actually even program the money to be spent only on specific things. Now, pros and cons, because I remember the first time I read this, I was like, oh, that's amazing. I think about like, you know, like Australia has a really big, like, it's called a Medicare system where the government gives a lot of like incentives and helps out, you know, like single moms, single parents, people with disabilities, even people that are looking for jobs. And then it's like, are you really looking for a job or are you just taking the money and spending it on alcohol, drugs, and other things? So there's ways of limiting and being like, okay, this amount of money actually has to go to the child, et cetera, right? It's like, oh, cool. Like programming to an extent can be really good. But then you start thinking about like, or even, and this is all not made up, like, go look it up, like, China, Thailand, like, all these CBDCs are already proposed in Australia, it's already proposed, and it's happening, like, digital ID, it's all there in the open space, like, we all have access to this information. But what's another crazy one is you're driving home, you're already stretched thin because everything's getting more expensive, inflation. You're driving home, you get home, you pick up your phone because you're going to go pay a bill, pay rent that night. You don't realize that driving home, you went through a red light and they immediately took out $300. Like you're fine, gone, complete. They know your car and they immediately take it out of your account. Welcome to the
Like
world
a
of digital IDs and CBDCs.
welcome to, like, a video game. Like, feels like a literal video game. Like, scary. Like,
Yeah,
dystopian.
like a horror game.
Not a
But
fun
like
one.
this is the sort of thing that's already being proposed in certain countries. Now, what I love about, I mean, I live in Florida for a reason. I did choose Florida because CBDCs are already illegal in the state of Florida, so they cannot impose it. I believe on a federal level, that was actually something that was trying to be passed along with the Genius Act and other things that they were trying to pass. I didn't keep up to date with that, so I don't know if it's been approved.
Sure. Like, I'm pretty sure they're banned across all the US.
Amazing. I love it here. I love it here and I travel a lot. So I know that they, you know, and it is a big thing that they've been pushing for to make it illegal across all of US. So if it's been signed, amazing. And why was I saying this? I was saying this because then that brings us back kind of like to okay, stable coins, but then Bitcoin. Quick
Big
distinction even here is like I said, CBDCs owned by central banks and the governments. Stable coins owned by private companies like Tether is like the biggest one, or Circle. So Tether owns USDT stablecoin. Circle owns USDC, which PS is also the mother company of Coinbase. It's all connected. Cool. Anyways, so these are owned by private companies. And they, to an extent, have, let's just say, if you do something wrong and they know that your crypto wallet is that crypto wallet, they can come in and freeze your tether. They
Interesting.
can freeze your stable coin. I mean, just don't do anything super
That's
bad and you
don't do
should be
anything
okay.
stupid.
What's that?
Don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, be a law abiding citizen. For as long as the laws continue to be ethical and aligned with our faith and our beliefs, then that's okay. But, let's see where the world goes. But now we talk about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is not owned by anybody. As in the logo brand Bitcoin is not owned by anybody. The people that own their Bitcoin. It's like a hard asset. Like it's like you owning like a piece of land, a physical piece of gold, but in the blockchain. So nobody actually controls it. They can't change it, they can't manipulate it, they can't, or it's like the chances of it are so thin and it's getting harder and harder for anything to ever be able to happen to it. So I also think about Bitcoin as freedom, as sovereignty
Mhm.
and privacy, something that's starting to become more and more of a luxury. I'm going on a rant here.
Love it.
I hope it's making sense. I'm sorry to anybody that's new. They're like, "What's this crazy orange-haired girl talking about?"
I love it. It is I think the thing that I've learned the most in the crypto world is how to research and, like, how to study, like, what the source of something is. Because 'Cause you're talking about, like, you have to go and it's like CBDC is a central bank currency, so that means central bank owns it, and then even trying to articulate that in the fiat world. It's like, who actually runs the Federal Reserve? And then you start looking into like what the Federal Reserve is. And it's like you go to the source and you're like mad about the source because it's stupid.
Or is
This doesn't make any sense. But I think in the crypto world, because it makes sense, I'm like, this makes logical sense to have the people are the ones that run the nodes, that run the blockchain, that get to fact check everything, and so therefore you can't take you if you take down one, you can't take them all, and so it cannot be destroyed. I know you talk a little bit about integrating, like, crypto into your life, but you also talk a lot about the AI space and how that's coming into this world of not only finances, but just our life in general. And there was one episode that you had that I watched of your podcast where you mentioned the fact of this statistic that we consume an ungodly amount of it, data in a certain day comparative to our grandparents. And I was like, that is unreal. But
so
talk a little
wild.
bit about, like, how AI is coming into the world and playing a part in this intelligence era.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I overall, I'm so bullish on life. Like, I'm so excited for where our world is heading to. But obviously, with change comes question marks, right? Like, it's like we're all like teenagers again, like trying to figure out what to do with these new things that are coming up in our life, And it's like
That's
where
the
that's
same.
literally what's happening. But AI is, I believe that AI is going to be this already starting to be this incredible tool that makes our lives easier if we so choose it to be. Like, I love that I get to sit here for 15 minutes. I talk to my AI and I'm like, I need to do this and that and this and that, and like have this presentation and this slideshow and this document and this thing like done for me. And I'm like, go. And then I go hang out at the pool with Alex. Like, do you know what I mean? I love that we are able to use this intelligence that will do things for us. Like, I can't wait for robots that are going to be in my house cooking and cleaning and doing all the things that, I mean, sometimes maybe I want to do them if I have a date night with my husband and I want to like cook, but not every day. Like, I have other things to do, like I don't think I was created to do all this like hard stuff. Or it can even be like, I do think about like all this admin and nitty gritty stuff that we can have computers
Sure.
do for us because we're made for so much more. I really feel like humans, and the late Bob Proctor always spoke about our higher faculties as humans, creativity, wisdom, our intuition, and all these beautiful things that I think our culture has forgotten about and devalued it. Because I even think about when I was trying to choose a university degree,
Mhm.
and it was like, "Oh, don't do an arts degree. Like, how much money are you gonna make out of an arts degree?" I don't know if you ever got that, but, like, for me, it was like, "Oh, like, don't be a painter. You're probably gonna make money after you die, like Picasso or something." And you're like, so everything was like, go to law, medical school, like, these hard skills that, now instead, like, you go to your general practitioner doctor and they're looking things up on ChatGPT. Like, because ChatGPT sometimes can give us a better diagnosis when you know the information that you're inputting. That's the key, right? Like, don't go self diagnose. You're not a doctor. The doctor is inputting certain things. So then they use their discernment to make the decision. And that's what I'm seeing, right? So I think that, like, we've devalued all these beautiful things that we have as humans so much, and that AI is going to bring that balance back.
Mhm.
That we get to remove all these stressful things out of our life so that we have more time, we have more stillness. And as somebody of faith, I know that in rest and in stillness is when I'm most connected to God. When I'm chaotic, when I have a million things going on and there's so much noise, I don't hear him, or I find it harder to discern as to what is the Holy Spirit and what is chaos and the enemy trying to get through to me, right? So that's the way that I view AI. I think it's actually going to be really beautiful. And that we get to just use it to our advantage. Like, I'm so excited. I'm like, get better. Let's do this. Like, Elon, step it up, bro. Like, let's do more here. Come on.
I love it because I think it's so true, like, that we have the higher faculties, and I think we're finally at a point in history where we can use all of that stuff to be able to, like, be other like, we don't have to work with our hands. Like, it's
Yeah.
so not a thing in our generation that I think is like, I think our kids are gonna, like, they're not gonna know what drivers like, they're not gonna have to pass a driving. It's like, I don't think that'll be a thing that they have to do anymore. I think we'll just have autonomous cars by the time we uh,
Sorry.
okay.
Went the wrong way.
But I think that the lane that we're in, that we're exploring, and that our generation gets to, like, be on the cusp of is very cool because we get to be creative, we get to have our time back, and I know for you, like, you and I've had similar, like, burnout journeys and been through super high highs of, like, massive amount of work and the masculine energy, and then really learned how to be, like, in our flow state and learned that. What what's some practical tips that you have for some of the women that are listening, to balance the yes, we need to work, but we need to work smarter. We need to, like, to get our time back, to then have time to rest and be with our family and cultivate that space that only women get to do. Like, that is a divine, like, thing that we get to do. So, like, what are some practical tips that you have for that?
Yeah, I think, just reflecting on my journey, and still today, I am not perfect. You know what I mean? Like, it takes time to get out of that hustle culture and that programming that we have. But one of my favorite things is the 80/20 rule. Like, literally give yourself time to sit down and write out all the things that you do that are the productive things, right? And if you have a business, also like clients, write out your clients. What the 80/20 rule says is that 80% of what you're doing gives you 20% of your results. And 20% of what you're doing is actually producing 80% of your results. So write them all out and then look at that 80% that you're doing to get that 20% result, and what can you do with that? Can you delegate it? Like, that's a big thing. Like,
Mhm.
delegate the $10 task, the $10 an hour task, so you have more time to go do the $100 an hour task. So, what is it that you can delegate? What do you just need to remove? Less really is more.
I love that.
Less really is more. And the like weight off your shoulders when you start to remove things. So I think that's a really big thing, the 80/20 rule. just shifted a lot of things, and even today makes me reflect, and I'm like, why am I like trying to do that when I could do this thing and generate so much more and create so much more space and time for myself? So that's one thing. And I think the second thing, it's not so much a practical thing, but I think it's definitely like a reprogramming of our mind, which is it comes back to rest is productive. Rest is productive. Like when you actually have a full day off, there's a reason that in the Bible we have the Sabbath. We have one full day where God is like, what did I just say before? Like you really talk to God in stillness and in rest. That's where you really find him. So there's a reason that he said, there's one day a week where you worship me. And how do you worship me? By resting, by being still. And so when you take that day off, and you know this, Grace, you were probably there with me when I literally had one of our coaches be like, take the day off, otherwise I'm going to call you and make sure you're not on your phone. Like literally, like throwback to 2023 when I just refused. Like nobody's going to die. Like it's going to be okay. Like take a day off and look at how much more then throughout your days, throughout your week, you will be more productive. And actually that reminds me another thing is it's called Parkinson's law. I love Parkinson's law. Essentially, it says that you will use up all the amount of time that you have to do something to accomplish or to complete a task. So there are times where we are like, I have days to get that done.
Mhm.
And so you will use up all those days to do that one thing. But you could probably be doing that thing and maybe even do it better in a couple hours. But when you choose and you give yourself that time and you're like, this is the time that I have. So, as a woman who is high functioning, high achieving, like a go getter, I use a schedule. Google Calendar is my only boss. And my husband knows this. So, I'm not making this up. If you need a testimony, a confirmation, I literally schedule in everything. I will literally schedule in when I make lunch. My goal of 2025 was to eat lunch every day. I'm not even joking, like, because I would just forget. I would just forget. And so, like, schedule it in, like, eat lunch or, like, make dinner before I get to my trading, because otherwise I'll get there and be like, "Oh, I need to trade, but I, like, forgot to have dinner." Schedule in rest time. Schedule in times that you go hang out with your spouse, significant other, with your friends, like, I just and obviously, like, it gets easier over time, but if you need to, like, make that shift because when you fill up your schedule is how you think you're being productive. So choose rest as productivity, start to schedule it in. And then I think over time, you just start to be more of a flow state and you can reprioritize your time and really think about how much time do I really need to spend doing that thing?
I love it. I was like, that's been one of the single-handed, like, best things I've ever done is take a day off. And it like, you would think I thought I was gonna die when I first
No, right? You're like, no, everything's going to crash and burn. Like, it's okay. Let
and then
go.
it's like now I'm like, I leave my phone in places and I'm like, "Where is it?" And nobody can reach me, and I'm like, "I should probably."
I know, I'm so hard to reach too nowadays, and I'm like, "What a blessing." Like, finally, we finally snapped out of it.
Man, I love it. I love all of that. Where can people find you? Because I know you have a few different school communities. I know you have a few different places that people can learn more about AI as well as crypto trading, all of that stuff. Where can they find you at?
Of course, yeah. So, I'm kind of working on 2 main things that are, like, my focus. So, we have our podcast, it's myself and my husband, it's called The Revival. Before revival was a trending word, it was just
No.
meant to be. So, it's The Revival, you can find that on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of that. I think it's actually The Revival Show Official is the handle. I'm sure maybe we can
Get
put
it right.
links
Yeah.
or something. And that's where, that's really our passion project where we talk about crypto, AI, to 2030, all these CBDCs and where the world is heading and just how to like prepare for that. And we have a free school community, or it costs $1 one time to enter just to remove the spam. So that's like a hub. And within that, we have our brand new AI Academy, which is mainly led by my husband, seeing as he's the one that's so like he's on it. He knows all the new AI, all the things, all the tools. So that's all in there. And then, my I guess this is also my passion project, but so I actually collaborate with a beautiful group of women, and we have a school that is called Trading for Women. So within that, we have over 4,000 women that learn how to trade, how to invest. And so that, is a range of swing trading, scalping, of course, my crypto trading as well as crypto investments. And yeah, so that's what I've got there. But I'm sure I'll share links so you can have it.
Yes.
My beacons.ai, because it's all through AI. But you can find everything there, and I've got a little page coming out so you can find all the info there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Corinne, for your time. This is honestly such a joy to be able to I love nerding out about these kind of conversations, and I know you do too, so
I love language.
like, I love finding individuals that are just obsessed with their passion, and like we said, like, we are at that time in history where we can be obsessed with our passion and make an income doing it, and so it's like you can do both, and I think that's something that our generation gets the blessing of being able to do and to showcase, and I love seeing how it is that you go about doing it, so and a byproduct of it, I get to learn and grow in the crypto space as well, and so
Of
thank you
course.
for all of the insights and the education and the journey that we've been on together, and I can't wait to see more people on this journey with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been a
Of course.
pleasure.